Hey guys, happy Friday. I would like to welcome you guys to my podcast. It's just your average podcast where we talk sports and stuff, current events, just life, life of your average middle age adult father. And, my pers- I, if you want to say like my New Year's resolution, what is it? What did I plan on for this year? Well, one thing I planned on was to stop planning, and just to do it. I love sports. I love talking sports. I love watching sports. And people always tell me, hey man, you should just talk sports, man. If that's something you do, that's something you love, whether you're right all the time, whether you're wrong all the time, just talk sports, man. And so instead of you planning to start a podcast, instead of buying a camera and getting all this stuff and doing everything right and trying to do everything perfect, we're just gonna do, and we're just gonna jump into it, and we'll make mistakes, and this won't be perfect, and I don't have a logo or nothing like that, and I'm just just jumping into this thing and just talking and hopefully someone stumbles upon it and they appreciate me just trying, and maybe they agree with some of the things that I say and some of the takes that I have on some of the sports that I watch, and there may be some people disagree, and that's fine as well, and because it's just my opinion. I'm not going to be right about everything. I'm not going to be wrong about everything, and that's the great thing in sports is that a lot of the takes are opinionated, and you can have your opinion on it. And I know you didn't ask for my opinion, but look, I'm gonna give it anyway because this is my podcast, and that's what we do here. And if you want to have your opinion, hey, get you a podcast. This is really easy. Get you a mic and say what you want to say, because that's what life is about. You say what you want to say and you live with it, and whether people like or love it or hate it, or whether regardless, you live with just putting yourself out there and being vulnerable and taking a chance. And so that's what we're doing with this podcast here. And I'm just gonna jump into it. Our first topic today is just we're just going to go over our power rankings for the NFL playoffs. We're up to 14 teams now in the NFL playoffs. It's come a long way, and before they start tomorrow, I'm just going to the landscape of how I see the playoffs, and basically the way I rank these teams are just how I feel these teams are ranked on how likely they could win a championship. So yes, it's a power rankings based on how you entered the playoffs, the totality of your team versus the schedule you played, how ready you are, whether you're a wild card team, whether you have home games, whether you don't have home games. All that comes into place into the power rankings, seeing who I feel have the best chance to win it all. Now, like I said, could be totally wrong, and I could be 100% right. But the great thing about it is it's all my opinion, and we're just gonna jump into it. All right. Just to let you guys know, I'm a San Francisco 49ers fan. I was born in Palo Alto, California, and I was raised more in the Bay Area. I moved to Texas when I was about 13 years old, and so I've been in Houston ever since then. So I also and do enjoy a Houston Texan team here, but I'm at heart, I'm a San Francisco 49er fan. And so you'll see as you learn and as we grow, you'll see that I'm extremely unbiased when it comes to my sports teams, because look, I'm a fan at heart, and I understand that I take my feelings out of it when it comes to my sports team, and I'm super super objective when it comes to just talking about them. I'm very realistic. If we have a chance to win, we have a chance to win. If we don't, we don't. But when we do, I will be loud and proud. Okay. So we're going to jump in and we're going to start with our number 14 team. And our number 14 team is going to be the Pittsburgh Steelers. Okay. So now the Pittsburgh Steelers, one thing that I would say is that they have a great coach. Okay. Now, the great coach can only do so much. They can only cover up so much when it comes to sports. But they do have great. I mean, Mike Tomlin's a great coach. I know that there are people saying that they might be getting rid of Mike Tomlin and that they might be moving on. It's not because he's not a great coach. It's because sometimes the voice just gets stale. Sometimes they just need to push forward. And then sometimes you're living on the legacy of one championship, and that's been a long time ago. And it's kind of, it happens, just because he might move on doesn't mean he's not a great coach. And the thing about the Pittsburgh Steelers is that, look, they've had offensive line problems all season, and they're ranked 27th in passing the ball. Okay, now this is a mixture of Justin Fields early in the season, and then you had Russell Wilson. He came on late, but combined, they rank towards the bottom in passing yards. Now, they are decent running the ball, but not great because the offensive line is not great. But to compound the problem of not being able to pass the ball deep, I mean, they also are at the bottom of the league when it comes to pass defense. Okay, now, granted, they are top 10 with points allowed, but they're also like in the middle of the pack with points scored. So if you can't score points, you can't pass the ball, and you come into the playoffs losing 4 in a row with a bad offensive line, I just don't see a world where they could win any games. Now, like I said, great coaching will keep you in games. So while everybody may think that Baltimore Ravens might blow them out, which that's a possibility, don't be surprised if this comes down to a field goal or some kind of late touchdown that makes this game different, just because a great coach and a quarterback that doesn't turn the ball over can actually make for a great playoff game. Okay. As we go into our number 13 team, I have the Denver Broncos. Now, the Denver Broncos have a great defense, but that's about as far as it goes. Their offensive line is decent. I think what happened is that Denver is a product of playing a last place team schedule. Okay. And this happens every year. You get a team that plays the last place schedule. They overperform. They get into the playoffs and they play against an actual playoff caliber team and they get destroyed. Okay. Now Denver had 2 wins against playoff caliber teams, and that would be Tampa Bay in week 3, and then you have the Kansas City Chiefs in week 18. Now, I really don't count that game in week 18 because obviously Patrick Mahomes wasn't, basically the whole Chiefs team wasn't playing. They packed it in. I mean, I get it, because they didn't need the game. And so if you take that game out of it, they have 1 win against playoff teams, and that was the Buccaneers early in the season. And so the stats may say one thing, but the eye test is telling me elsewise. Okay, they're not one of the top 10 teams in the playoffs. They're obviously ahead of schedule with a rookie quarterback, but once again with a great coach, you can do some good things in the regular season. I just don't see them getting a win here, and being that they're playing the Bills, it even puts them even more behind the 8-ball in that sense. I just don't see a rookie quarterback going into Buffalo and, putting up a big fight in that game, even though the coach is going to give them a fighting chance. So we're going to go into number 12, and at number 12, I have the Houston Texans. And so now The Houston Texans honestly could be a lot higher on this list. They should have been a lot higher on this list based on expectations, based on how many people seen CJ Stroud coming into the season, based on how many people felt their defense was going to play this year. But I just feel like the Texans have just slightly underperformed this year. Their defense has just not been as dominant as I expected them to be. The offensive line struggled mightily this year. CJ Stroud was running for his life. And Joe Mixon was banged up here and there. When he was on the field, he was really good. You had Nico in and out the lineup. They lost what's his name? I'm off the top of my head. I can't think. Who came over from Buffalo? Oh my goodness. Oh wow. What's his name? Stefon Diggs. Jesus Christ. Why can I not think of this guy's name? Oh my goodness. Yeah, Stefon Diggs. They lost him early in the season, and then they wound up losing Tank Dell a little bit later. Oh my gosh. I don't know why his name just left me like that. But yeah. So their wide receiver room has been kind of and so really they're depending on Nico Collins and Joe Mixon to really show up in this playoff game. Now, granted, I don't expect the Texans to win against the Chargers, but I wouldn't be surprised by a win. Okay, I just think that they didn't play great football this year, not in the totality. They weren't as prolific scoring because they were injured most of the year, and they started games well but didn't end games well. And so I wouldn't be surprised if they got out to an early lead and the Chargers kind of walked them down and wound up winning the game late. It's kind of how the Texans have lost games for the most part this year. Okay. Look, the Texans are not a bad team. Okay, they're not. Like I said, I wish they were higher on this list. It's kind of a team that I like. They're just not as good as some of these other teams. And coming into the playoffs, they're not. If we go to number 11, we're sitting with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Okay, look. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are a team that can literally beat anyone on any given Sunday, okay? And that's the great thing about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, the bad thing about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is that they could lose to anyone also on any given Sunday. Look, I mean, you know Mike Evans, 1,000-yard receiver, 11 straight years. We love to see it. I think Bucky Irving's over there is going crazy in the backfield. He's really toting the rock. And look, Baker Mayfield is literally playing some of the best ball of his career, and we love to see it. Okay, we really love the resurgence. I'm a big component of quarterbacks are a product of their environment, so it takes a good coach, a good quarterback coach, a good offensive scheme, great offensive parts, and all that to come and play for a rookie quarterback or a young quarterback to come in and really be successful. So you're starting to see Baker in a really good environment. He's comfortable. He's happy. He's got some consistency, and you're really starting to see, you know, what that number one pick could have been with the right environment around him. Now, like I said, their offense is scary, but at the same time, their defense is really, really unserious. They'll show up sometimes, and then at other times they won't. And you can't just be a Titanic team that wants to turn it on and turn it off at certain points. They had some really bad losses this year, and they had some good wins. But like I said, they're a type of team that can win any game and they can lose any game. And so that's why they find themselves right here around the middling area of the power rankings here. Okay. And actually, if we go down to number 10, right here at number 10, I have the Washington Commanders. Okay. And so when I say the Washington Commanders, it's really two words, Jaden Daniels, plain and simple. Look, this guy has that it factor about him. Okay. There's certain guys that have it and certain guys that don't. And you know it and you see it. And when you see it, you're like, it's undeniable. Okay. And this guy has it. I mean, there's not too many instances that I can remember of a rookie quarterback starting week 1 and putting on the highlight reel that he's put on this year. The last guy that I know to do that as a rookie would probably be Cam Newton. You know, and so that's how far we're going back, just as far as just not necessarily just, you know, but turning a team around, stats, wins, highlights, you know, just spectacular, you know, must-see TV quarterback play. It's been a while since we've seen something like Jaden Daniels. And you know, like, he has a team that plays hard for him. They went and got a lot of veterans in the offseason, free agency. They're well coached. I like this team. You know, the team plays hard for him. He's the kind of guy that, you know, when a team knows that they're going to be in a game and they have a guy that can make a play, that can make a game-winning play as long as they keep it close, I mean, the team is going to play hard for him. And, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if this team upset the Buccaneers. I wouldn't be surprised. You know, it's going to be a great game. I don't know who's going to win that game. It's really a toss-up. But, I mean, if I was a betting man, I would bet the underdog here. I like the Commanders. I like what they can do in a late game. I like that he does not waver when the game gets tough. He shows up. He doesn't wilt under the pressure, and that's what you want to see in a quarterback. All right. So going into number 9 here, I have the Green Bay Packers. Now, this is a team that, coming from last year, coming into this year, I think most people would have said they would be a little bit higher coming into the playoffs than where they sit here. And I think if you're the casual fan, or if you're just, you know, not a Green Bay fan, you don't know how to put your finger on why they aren't higher. And so, I mean, they have a great coach. They have a young, up-and-coming quarterback. The defense wasn't playing great in the beginning of the year. They're young. They're starting to come around. They're starting to play a lot better towards the end of the season. I think they're just a couple pieces away. They're the type of team that is constructed to win the games that they're supposed to win. Okay? But when it comes to actually playing the powerhouse teams, they don't perform well. Okay? So they tend to beat teams that you thought were good, but when they played them, they beat them. So you look at that as a good win, but when in reality, that team that they played were really not as good as you thought they were. And then when they play against an actual good team, they might play them close and eventually lose, which then makes you think that they're a lot better than what they are, when in reality, they're just not quite there yet. Not saying they aren't a great team, not saying they won't put up a fight, but with not having a home game and playing against the Philadelphia Eagles in the first round, I can't really say, especially with Jordan Love possibly being nicked up from the last game, and you have Watson probably nicked up still coming into Philadelphia, a hostile environment. Very tough place to play, especially when you have a young defense. And I understand they beat them in week 1, but they were playing in Mexico on a bad field. I'm not saying that the Eagles are going to run away with this game, but like I said, the rankings go into whether you have a home game, who's your opponent, and all that. I just don't see a world where Green Bay gets a win in this situation. But if Jordan Love balls out and plays the game that I think he might play, this game might be the best game of the weekend. Okay, so we're going to go into our top 8 here. And going into 8, I have the Los Angeles Rams. Now, you may say, wow, the Rams at 8, look, that's way too high. Their division was bad. They, have a lot of youngsters on their team. But I will tell you this, okay? I honestly, to be honest with you, if this were the regular season, I would be inclined to agree with you. I honestly would. But this is the postseason rankings, and the NFL postseason is about quarterbacks and head coaches, okay? There's a reason why when you look up playoff wins, it's attached to quarterbacks and coaches. Okay? The running backs, you don't see running back wins, tight end wins, linebacker wins, cornerback. You don't see none of that. You see quarterback wins and you see head coaching wins. And this head coach quarterback duo is one quarterback head coach duo of only 3 in the NFL this year that have went to the Super Bowl and won a Super Bowl. Okay? So, their defense has did 180 from the beginning of the season. They've shown that they can win a game scoring 44 points or just 12 points. And, they got a Super Bowl winning quarterback. And you just can't sleep on the Rams. They have a great coach, great quarterback. They're going to have a home playoff game. Yeah, granted, they have to go to Arizona because of the fires. And, I want to send my condolences out there to everyone that's going through everything that's going on in LA. That is extremely, extremely sad. And look, I get it, and it's tough, it's a tough time, and so I just want to send out my condolences, and I'm just sending my prayers to everyone that's dealing with those wildfires out there in LA, but hopefully the Rams go out there and do you proud. Just don't sleep on the Rams, man. You can't sleep on a team like this, a quarterback and a coach duo like this. And as I'm saying that, I would just want to go into another LA team that's my number 7 team, and that's the Chargers, okay? And we can go back to the 2-word theory here, and that's going to be Jim Harbaugh, okay? Look, like I said, the playoffs is as we go up this list, you're going to start seeing that, the coaches get better and better as you go up this list. These quarterbacks get better and better as you go up this list. And the Chargers, look, coaching wins playoff games more than anything else. Okay? And if you just add on a great quarterback on that, and then the Chargers also have an above average offensive line, and they also have a great defense, and they also have a great running back that can run the rock and catch the ball, they're going to give anyone they play a run for their money. Okay, this is why the Texans are really low on my list, is because the Chargers are not going to really beat themselves. Okay, you're going to have to beat them. You're going to have to beat this team. They're not going to beat themselves. Jim Harbaugh is going to have them ready to play. They're going to play their ass off in every game they play. How many games they win? 1 game, 2 games, maybe 3. That's going to depend on the quarterback and the quarterback only. We don't know what he can do. We haven't seen him in the playoffs. Let's see him in the playoffs. If he shows up, if he does what he can, look, man, Justin Herbert can make any throw. Any throw you can think about, listen, he can pretty much make any throw, okay? There's a couple throws that Patrick Mahomes can make, and maybe a few that Josh Allen can make that he can't. But, I mean, the list is very, very few of the throws that this guy cannot make, okay? So I would tell you that the Chargers are a team that, like I said, you're going to have to beat. But Justin Herbert isn't proven. He hasn't proven anything in the playoffs. And once again, they're a team that got to play a schedule where, they didn't have a really tough schedule, and so now you're going to go play against all the big guys. And we'll see, where you lay at. I don't want to overhype this team, but I would say they're well put together and they're well coached. And I wouldn't be surprised if they were in a late game, field goal away from beating a Kansas City to go to the AFC Championship game. All right, let's go into number 6. Okay, now, as we move into our number 6, I would say that in my mind, there are 5 teams that have a legit chance at winning a Super Bowl this year. Okay, there's about 5 teams. So the first team that I have out would be the Minnesota Vikings. Okay, now, if they would have won the game against the Lions, got the bye week, got the home field advantage, they would be higher on this list. But that didn't happen, okay? And because that didn't happen, they slipped down this list because now you do not get a home game at all, okay? The chances of you getting a home game are very slim going through the playoffs, so which means that now you need to win 3 straight playoff games on the road to get to the Super Bowl, and the chances of that happen are pretty slim. But they're a well put together team, okay? They're more well put together than the Rams and slightly more put together than the Chargers. The only difference is that the Vikings and the Chargers is the quarterback play, okay? Now, I could honestly have put the Chargers above the Vikings, but let's just be honest. I mean, the Vikings had a way tougher schedule, only came out with 3 losses. They played against tough teams pretty well. I don't want to just go crazy just because they lost the last game in Detroit, where Detroit played out of their minds and dropped them down past this, because, to be honest, they played a lot better than the Chargers coming in, as far as coming into the latter part of the season. The Vikings there's just such a huge discrepancy in Sam Darnold's wins and his losses. Okay, the way he plays. I could deal with a quarterback if in their wins they're 95 to 110 plus, right? And in their losses, they give me 75 to 80, 85. It lets me know that the loss is really not on their shoulders. There's somewhere where the different parts of the team may have broke down, but the quarterback still came to play that day. The difference is in Minnesota's losses, Sam Darnold is terrible. And so because he has this to keep it really easy, this hot cold thing, I just don't know which Sam Darnold is going to show up at any date, at any game. Which guy are we going to get? And so because of that, I just can't make them a legit Super Bowl contender because, like I said, the playoffs about quarterback. They got great offensive weapons, okay? A great defensive scheme with great defensive players to play these schemes, okay? The wide receiver, great. Running back, great. They have a great offensive line. I mean, they have literally everything that you would want in a team going into the playoffs. I just want to see which Sam Darnold shows up. And if that sub 70 QBR Sam Darnold shows up at any point in the playoffs, they're gone. If that 110, 120, 130 guy shows up, they're going to give everyone they play a run for their, excuse my French, fucking money. Okay? They just are. But the moment, because everybody looks at Sam Darnold as this bust, right? And so, even coming into the season, they had Sam Darnold and they went ahead and they still drafted a quarterback. So they didn't think Sam Darnold was the guy. So everybody thinks that Sam Darnold is the pumpkin that's a carriage right now. And so for the lack of a better analogy, we'll just use, the Cinderella one. And if he turns back into a pumpkin, the night's over. Okay. You better hope that he's a carriage all the way through, because if he wakes up and is like, I'm really a pumpkin, and he goes out there and plays like it, it's over for the Minnesota Vikings. And I just hope that it's not going to be in game one for them. Okay. Not saying it will be, but I just hope it's not in game one. Okay. I want to see a good Vikings-Rams game. All right. Look, we're going into our top five. And at number 5 coming in, okay. And the top 5 is where you really are going to start to piss people off, okay? Because these top 5 are diehard fan bases. These are people that all these teams are going to say we should be number 1, okay? But in reality, everybody can't be number 1. Somebody has to be number 5. Somebody has to be number 4 all the way through, okay? And so we're, like I said, this goes into, everything is taken into context. Not just the team, not just their record, not any of that. It goes into everything. It goes into bye weeks. It goes into home field advantage. It goes in, all that goes into play. Okay, so I just want you to really, really take that into account as I dig into these top 5, because I'm not here to piss people off. I'm just giving my opinion. Okay, and like I said, I know you didn't ask for it, but you're still listening. So obviously, I might be saying something that has some kind of substance, okay? So I just hope that you take the last, 11 teams as we go into the the last 9 teams, as we go into the top 5, as I'm using the same step-by-step basis as I'm coming up with these top 5. I'm not leaning, because I I wouldn't say I'm not a fan of any of these teams or anything. So I'm unbiased in that sense. Like I said, I'm a San Francisco 49er fan. And look, we just sniffed the playoffs. But we'll jump into this. Let me stop rambling. I really got to stop doing that because, I mean, that's not what you're here for. You're here for this. You're here for the power rankings, right? Okay, let's get into them. All right, he's like, shut up, man. I want to hear where you got number 5. Look, so at number 5, I have the Baltimore Ravens, okay? Now, hear me out, okay? The Baltimore Ravens are a great team. Now, all these teams are great. Look, man, you have 5 teams. Like I said, these are the 5 teams that I feel like have a chance to win a championship, win a Super Bowl, make it to the Super Bowl, make it to the AFC championship game. These are the 5 teams, okay? The Baltimore Ravens are a great, great team. They have a great coach. They have a great quarterback. Great offense. Great running back. The defense is starting to finally come around. They didn't play great in the beginning of the season, but, they're coming around. They're starting to play great. They got Pro Bowlers. They got, they got all pro players. They're stacked, But we've been here before with the Baltimore Ravens. If you want to be real, I mean, take away Derrick Henry, they had a better team last year. They had a better team last year with home field advantage and couldn't get the job done, okay? And so being another one of those teams that is going to they'll get a home playoff game to start, but then we'll have to go on the road twice to get to the Super Bowl. I mean, I want to believe that at some point Lamar Jackson gets over the hump. At some point he does what he does in the regular season in the playoffs. At some point, I want to believe that. But as a growing adult, I also have learned to take people at who they are and who they show you to be until they show you otherwise. And so until Lamar Jackson shows me otherwise, I just don't trust to put him higher than number 5 in this sense. And the only reason why I say him is because, like I said, quarterbacks and coaches. The coach is a Super Bowl winning coach. We know he's going to get it done. We know he's going to put Lamar in the best position to win. We know he's going to have the team ready to go. We know deep down the Baltimore Ravens are going to go as far as Lamar Jackson takes them. That's the reason why he's in the MVP race. That's the reason why he's already won 2 MVPs. It's because they go as Lamar Jackson goes. And as far as I'm concerned, what I've seen from him is that he doesn't show up. But I want him to show up so bad. I'm not hoping for a repeat performance. I'm ready for him to shut some people up. I'm so ready for him to shut some people up. But until he does it, I just can't put them higher than number 5 because his repeat performances have told me otherwise, okay? So let's go into number 4. At number 4, I have the Buffalo Bills. And before you get all hell-bent and you say, how the hell are the Bills ahead of them? And they only have 2 all-pro players, the quarterback and the left tackle. Okay? Like I said, I'm taking everything into account. The Buffalo Bills have home field advantage. Okay? They play against the Denver Broncos in the first round. If they go to the second round, most likely, based on the competition, most likely they will be playing Baltimore at home, if I'm not mistaken. Or they could get Houston at home. Either way are the Chargers at home. Either way, I like them in that situation. So, if I like them in that situation, I'm essentially saying they have, of the AFC teams, they have the best chance to make the AFC championship game in that sense, which puts them as a top 2 AFC team. Now, is just because they have the home field doesn't mean they're going to win? No, it doesn't mean they're going to win. But they have the Broncos in the first round. I expect them to win that game. In the second round, they're going to be the favorite. Simple as that. And Josh Allen has shown me in the playoffs, based off of his performance, what I've seen from him is that there's only 2 quarterbacks that could beat him in the playoffs. And that's Joe Burrow and that is Patrick Mahomes. And if neither one of those quarterbacks is going to show up and to play in Orchard Park, then pencil me Josh Allen in the AFC Championship game. Okay? I feel like he's a guy that can put his team on the back and get him there. Okay? He's shown that he can do that. He's shown that he can do more with less. And I don't know what it is. I mean, if you want to put Baltimore 4 and Bills 5, I wouldn't be mad at you. You can swap them all you want in that situation. Me personally, especially this year, because he cut back on the turnovers, because he turned the ball over like crazy. If he had another one of those years like that, I'd probably be leaning Baltimore in this situation. But they were both pretty clean with the turnovers, so it's really, really even. And if you go off of postseason performances and prior history, Josh Allen just shows up a little bit more than Lamar does in the playoffs. And that's why I have them at number 4 going into the wild card weekend. Number 3. The Detroit Lions. Okay. All right. Look, I said I didn't want to come in here and piss anybody off. I didn't want to make anybody mad. But you got to hear me out, okay? You got to really listen. You got to really listen to me on this one. Now, you're probably saying, well, you said that, you were going off of bye weeks and home field. And, well, they have a bye week and they got home field all the way out through. They're going to have to come to Detroit to win. Yeah, you are right. You're going to have to go to Detroit, most likely to get to the Super Bowl. And I hear you and I understand that. But what I don't want you to do is to be caught up in a recency bias event and take into account that, Minnesota was a 14-2 team, and they went to Detroit, and Detroit, shut them out. Defense played lights out, and you're like, that's the best team going into the playoffs. And that's why they're the number 1 seed. They're getting a bye week. They're going to be, rested. They're going to run to the Super Bowl. Okay. Sometimes, 1 + 1 = 2. Okay. I wish I could sit here and tell you the Detroit Lions are the number 1 seed. Kansas City is the number 1 seed. Those 2 teams are going to go to the Super Bowl. It's that easy. I wish it was that easy. I wish every year would be that easy. If it was that easy, trust me, it'll be a lot of rich people because they would just bet the 2 matchups, number 2, number 1 seeds are going to get to the Super Bowl and they're going to win, or they're going to get there. And they would just bet the matchup and they would just win a lot of money and everybody would do it every year. But it's not that simple and it's not that easy. And there's a lot more that goes into it because the playoffs are different than a regular season. Okay. And so the Detroit Lions are a juggernaut offensive monstrous team. They have the second best O-line in the NFL. Okay. And probably maybe, depending on who you talk to, the second or third best offensive coordinator in the league. And I would say he's top 5. Okay. You would have to it would be between Andy Reid, Shanahan, Ben Johnson, God, what's the guy in Green Bay? What's the Green Bay's coach? The Packers coach. Let's see. Matt LaFleur. You got to put him up there, and then Sean McVay. Okay, I would say those are probably the top 5 offensive minds in the league right now. And so there, I don't worry about them, not even for half a second. Okay. Now, the problem is that they're not great defensively. Okay. And I don't want to say they're not great defensively because they have a great defensive coordinator and they have great defensive parts, but they aren't healthy. Now, Anzalone came back, and that was a big uptick. I'm pretty sure having the week off after coming back, they're going to play better than they played as of late, because as the season wore, they got the bye week 6, and so they had played about 10, 11 games in a row at that point. And so they were starting to get a little tired, but everybody's tired at this point in the season. It doesn't matter where your bye week is, honestly. I mean, everybody gets one. Doesn't matter if it's early or late. But the bye week is much necessary for the Detroit Lions. If they didn't get this bye week, I promise you, Detroit would probably be the Vikings and Detroit would probably be switched. Well, actually, I probably would have like just Baltimore and Bills moved up, and then you would have the Vikings at probably number 5 and the Lions at number 6. Just just because the Lions need the rest. they just need the rest. But the defense, there's nobody that's going to come back on this defense in the next 2 weeks. So just Hutchinson is not coming back. Okay. Now, granted, they played really well in that last game, but let's just be honest. Okay. Going into the NFC playoffs, I don't want you to overrate the game that Detroit Lions defense had against Sam Darnold. If you line up all the NFC quarterbacks, Sam Darnold is going to be the worst quarterback going into the playoffs. Okay. I mean, you got to really be like honest about it. When you think of just list them out. Okay. So you have Jaden Daniels, you have Matthew Stafford, you have Jordan Love, Baker Mayfield, you have Jalen Hurts, and Jared Goff. Those are, and then you have Sam Darnold. If you listed those and you put those into a power ranking, I don't care who you ask. You throw the stats out the window. I don't care. I'm going by just strictly eye test. What you've seen this year. Most people are going to say that Sam Darnold would be number 7 on that list. Okay? And so I don't want people to see what they did to Sam Darnold in that last game and be like, oh, their defense is actually playing so much better. Because that would be the worst quarterback they would face in the playoffs if they were to face a quarterback. Okay? Now, if the Vikings win their first game against the Rams, then it will be that team. It most likely will be the Rams that they play. I'm sorry, it would be the Vikings that they will play if they won that first game. But it's that's just one game, and so the next quarterback that comes in there, how good is that defense going to hold up against that team? And that team that I'm talking about would be my number 2 team, and that is the Philadelphia Eagles. Okay, and look, the Philadelphia Eagles, I mean, just as scary as Detroit Lions are offensively, the Eagles are just as scary. I mean, and to me, they're probably just a little bit more scary. I mean, you Saquon or Jahmyr Gibbs? I mean, I love them both, but give me Saquon. Wide receiver duo, which one would you prefer? I mean, I love them both, but A.J. Brown, dude, look, when that guy gets downhill, I mean, look, that big can fly. It's and what I said that Detroit Lions had the second best offensive line in the league, and number 1 is the Philadelphia Eagles. Okay, quarterback, I mean, you choose. I'm not even going to go like, just offensively, they stack up well against each other. I believe Detroit has a better schemed offense. Their offensive coordinator is probably better than the Philadelphia Eagles offensive coordinator. I would say the Eagles have a better offense as far as talent wise. And then Philadelphia Eagles defense is better than Detroit Lions at this point in the season. It's just a fact. The game, they gave up more than 23 points all season, only twice. One against the Washington, and the other game was when they were sliding all over the field in Mexico. Okay, so between that first game and that game where Jalen Hurts didn't play, so they couldn't really control the clock like they do when they run the ball, and he got hurt and got a concussion. He wasn't playing the game. They had a lot of 3-and-outs, so Washington got a lot of possessions, and that was the only game that they gave up more than 23 points other than the first game of the season. So this defense is serious. And I expect him to show up. I expect him to play. They took a week off before coming into the playoffs. And so I expect them to be ready to play. I expect them to be hungry. I expect them to feel slighted. And if there's one team that can go into Detroit and win, it's the Philadelphia Eagles. Okay? And look, we're gonna wind this down because I wanted to make sure that these things were under an hour. We're gonna wind this down with the number one team on our NFL postseason power rankings. And as much as I went back and forth, as much as I wanted to deny this, as much as I, contemplated, look, man, the Kansas City Chiefs are in a prime position to three-peat. And as much as I hate saying this, I mean, that's just the facts, okay? They got the best quarterback. They got the best coach. And they got the best defense. And honestly, that's what the NFL playoffs are all about. And they've done it before. They've been here. And they got 2 weeks off. You know? Yeah, their offensive line hasn't been great this season, but I tell you one thing that teams do when they play against, not play against, but when they play with great talent, is they raise their level of gameplay when the games matter the most, because they're playing with the best player. When Kansas City had a chance to, when Patrick Mahomes got hurt, and people thought that the Buffalo Bills might have a chance to get in the number 1 seed. That was the only 4 days that I contemplated not having Kansas City number 1 going into the playoffs. When Patrick Mahomes played on that ankle against the Texans, and he ran that guy over into the touchdown on one ankle, I knew they won the number 1 seed, and I knew if they got the number 1 seed, it was going to be good luck to the rest of the NFL. That defense is going to be a fucking monster. They're going to play with their fucking heads on fire. And it's not going to be fun for anyone that steps on the field with the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm barring some kind of catastrophic injury. Pencil in the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. I don't know if they'll win, because honestly, I think a team like Detroit or a team like the Eagles could beat them. But getting there, good luck to the AFC. That's going to conclude this episode. That's going to conclude our power rankings. I appreciate you for listening through. This might have been a tough listen because it's my first one. But like I said, 2025 is about doing. And I'm not trying to be perfect. I'm not trying to wait until everything is right and I perfected my speech and I stopped saying or because that's just who I am. And hey, if you like it, you like it. And if you don't, you don't. That's what these things are all about. And it's just about putting yourself out there. So, this is just your average podcast. Happy Friday again. Once again, I'd like to send all my condolences out to everyone out there in the LA area, battling those fires out there. And, God bless. And, let's have some fun this weekend and enjoy some great football. We'll talk to you guys later.